Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this week's collective worship. Peace be with you. Now, I wonder how many of you like eating apples. Apples are quite nice, aren't they? They're part of our 5 a day. Got a nice taste to them. They can be sweet, they can be sour, they can be crunchy, they can be soft, and of course they come in all sorts of different varieties, don't they? And certainly when I was a child, and I don't recommend you do this, we would sometimes just go and pick them off people's trees. But that's probably not a good idea, and I probably shouldn't have told you about that. But that's the sort of thing we used to get up to. But this is a really nice chunky apple. He's nice and he's red and he's rosy and he's a nice size and he smells really nice. But I've got a second apple here this morning. He's smaller. He's not so nice looking on the outside. In fact, he's a bit green and he looks a bit battered. Doesn't look very enjoyable at all. I wonder which of these apples you would choose if you could choose an apple this morning. Would it be this one that's all nice and shiny and looks like a lovely apple from the outside? Or would it be this apple that doesn't look quite so nice at all? Now, obviously I can't see which apple you've chosen, but I would have thought, just based on perhaps the apple I would have chosen, and based on the idea that, we always tend to go for what looks the nicest on the outside, you might have chosen this one. So shall we have a look at our apple? Oh, have you seen that? Our lovely apple that looks so nice on the outside. Well, look what it looks like on the inside. Would you want to eat that? It's all horrible and nasty and not very nice at all. That is not the sort of apple I would want to eat. It still smells okay, but yuck. Imagine if Mum gave you that to eat, what you would think about it. And we all make those sort of mistakes. We look at things on the outside, and because of what they look like on the outside, we make a judgment about them. We judge things according to what we see. What we see on the outside, and not necessarily what's going on in the inside. Because who could have thought that on the inside, that apple might have looked like that? But what about our other apple? The one we thought we wouldn't eat because it didn't look so nice on the outside. Have a look at it, shall we? And what a difference. Look, he might have looked horribly on the outside, but inside, he's absolutely perfect. A lovely apple, so perfect that Lottie's actually trying to jump up and get hold of it. A really lovely apple. So what does that tell us? Well, that tells us that we shouldn't make judgments about people just because of what we see. In fact, we shouldn't make judgments about anything just because of what we see. We should make sure that we know what's going on and get to know about the item or get to know about the person before we make judgments. And throughout the Bible, Jesus tells us not to judge people. In his examples about what he talked about, whenever Jesus met somebody, he didn't make a judgment about them and say, I don't like that person, or I'm not going to talk to that person, or I'm not going to help that person because of what they looked like. He found out about them. He discovered something about them. He looked at their insides and not just their outsides. He got to know them. And it's important that we get to know people as well before we make any kind of judgment about them. It also tells us in the Old Testament that God said that we shouldn't judge people by outward appearances. And if our apple's anything to go by, well, I definitely don't think we should judge people or anything by its outward appearance. So when it comes to making friends, or being fair, or being nice to others, or the remarks we make, just remember to stop and think, and don't make those remarks based just on what you see. Get to know people, find out something about them, because we're all equal in God's eyes. Do you remember last week I told you about my teddy bear and how scruffy and things were, and the fact that God still loved him? Well, that's true, and it's true about every person, whatever they look like on the outside, because everybody has something special on the inside. So let's just be quiet for a moment and think about that and pray. Dear God, we thank you that we are all different. We thank you that whatever we look like, you go on loving us, because you don't judge us by what we look like. You judge us by the person that we really are, and help us to make our judgment calls based on that idea as well. Amen. Well, that's it for this week. I hope to see you next week when we will be thinking more about Easter and the Easter story. Because, you know, one of the things about Jesus was, while he didn't judge other people judged him without getting to find out who he was. And that's why there were so many problems. And that's what led him to the cross. Until next week, bye for now.